Hello, welcome to Sugar, Silk and Stretch, a unique boxing podcast brought to you exclusively by Ace Podcast Nation. My name is Ben Doughty, and as you can plainly see, I'm not accompanied by either Silk or Stretch right now. I am expecting Gary Stretch, but you've got to bear with him because he's just landed in London a matter of hours ago, and he's going to be here for over a week, so that should be fun. No doubt we can achieve a lot of mischief in that kind of time. But Gary should be with us. He should be joining us at some point. So bear with me if you just tuned in and you're expecting more than just a solo show. But didn't want to keep the audience waiting, and we've got some fights to preview. It's quite a big weekend of boxing action, so I'm just going to hack through it myself until hopefully Gary joins me at some point. And do you know what else, viewers, fight fans? If you know this predictions league that we have going on, how's it going, Danny? This predictions league that we have going on, I'm taking a bit of a pasting in because I've got by far the worst record. I cling to the fact that I still have a 55% success ratio, but I am somewhat behind the guys who are more like 73% and 70%. So, and they rip the fuck out of me when I get it wrong. So I'm going to roll with this again. You know, that if they're not here, Silk has already forfeited his right to take part in this week. You know, if they're not here, then I'm going to pick some of these fights. I'm going to make my predictions, and if I get them right, then I'm taking the points whether they're involved or not. I need the points to catch up. You know, we had that thing, the 5 versus 5, when Gary tried to ascribe the same point system to our little league that they were playing in the Queensbury 5 versus 5 competition. But the Silk, who didn't take part that particular week, balked at it, and he had it all vetoed and overturned. So that was like a you know, that stopped me from catching up quite incrementally. So regardless of that, so first things first, tomorrow night at Selhurst Park, Crystal Palace Football Ground, you see the world title rematch of the domestic rivalry between Richard Riakporhe and defending WBO champion Chris Billam-Smith. It's a fight I have a little bit of interest in. I went to the press conference yesterday, and I did see the fighters on the stage. The thing that struck me, because some fighters really play the game nowadays, right? And they really go for that trash talk and shoving, you know, like Ben Whittaker grabbing that African King guy around the throat and giving it the big one. And I think some fighters do. They've either organically gotten the notion that that will make their fights, you know, that will make them more famous or give them a bigger profile. It'll make their fights more it'll create more of a buzz around the fight, which will lead to extra revenues. It'll lead to. I don't think it helps you sell tickets. I don't think it helps you sell tickets as in bums on seats. I think that kind of audience that's going to be swelled by the kind of trash talk and handbags that you get at weigh-ins and press conferences is more likely to come from the pay-per-view market. I think people who actually buy tickets to go fights, that's a different market, and they're a bit more serious. You know, whether they're actually following one of the fighters on the bill, and they always have been, or whether they're just serious fight fans who go to matchups or shows that they really like the look of. I think people who are into the clickbait stuff, I think they're more likely to buy a pay-per-view the relatively last minute than they are to actually go and attend a fight just because they've seen somebody acting up. But nonetheless, neither Riakporhe nor Billam-Smith acted up at all. They were very respectful. He struck me, Riakporhe, just really, really almost ludicrously chilled a day before the weigh-in, and focused and professional and classy and old school. You know, Billam-Smith, he looked a bit like a bailiff, to be honest. He looked like someone who'd come to ask about the, you know, your unpaid council tax or something. This kind of really functional suit he was wearing, but he was very cool. And when they asked Richard Riakporhe, you know, have you got any message for him, like they always do, you know, the generic guy in the middle doing that kind of thing, he said, yeah, I'd like to tell him to take care. And then they just put the microphone to Billam-Smith, and he said, yeah, thank you. And everybody laughed because it was so non-confrontational, you know, and so at odds with this whole idea that you've got to create a bit of needle these days to sell the fights on fight week. So, and then when I did get a little 3-minute interview with Riakporhe, as some of you may have seen on the channel, and I said to him, you know, you clearly it was very polite and respectful, and you obviously both felt no need to indulge in any kind of uh, barbed words. And he said, well, Evening, Gem and Grab, by the way. He said, well, we're going to fight anyway. He said, we're going to fight tomorrow night and it's going to be anything but polite. We're going to be trying to take each other's heads off. Or he wouldn't have said tomorrow night. He would have said Saturday night because this was yesterday. Okay? You still giving up? Good. And I've always felt that way, to be honest with you, because if you look at the Arturo Gatti and Mickey Ward fights, they were three absolutely legendary 10-rounders. Now, the thing is, the first fight is the really truly legendary one, but the second, either the rematch or the third fight would have been equally as legendary if it were not for the first one that existed. They were all crazy, almost like throwback 1950s Pabst Blue Ribbon commercial kind of fights. And Mickey and Arturo never said one bad word about each other before the first fight, after the first fight, before the second fight, build up to the third fight, after the third fight. All they had was massive mutual respect. So I think it's pretty obvious that we don't need that to try and sell the fights, really. I think what we need is good action-packed fights on a regular basis, which, obviously grows the audience organically because they like watching what they see. But anyway, so as you may be aware, when they met 5 years ago, and it was summer of 2019 on the undercard of Dylan White versus Oscar Rivas. Doesn't that seem like a very long time ago now? I was actually there that night at the O2 Arena. I don't have vivid memories of the Riakporhe Billam-Smith 10-rounder for one of those more spurious kind of ranking measurement belts that they fought for at the time. But I just watched it again before I come on air, the first fight they had 5 years ago, because I said to Riakporhe, Billam-Smith, when he was up on the dais at the press conference yesterday, said, it means nothing today. I'm a much different animal than I was 5 years ago, and it really doesn't mean anything. And when I put that statement to Riakporhe in the one-on-one, he said, well, no, he said, it doesn't, I wouldn't say it means nothing. He said, it poses a psychological edge. He says, I beat him. He said, it's not like he's got a different trainer. It's not like he's got a different style. He said, I beat him before. And interestingly enough, he said, I beat him when he was younger and fresher. And I still beat him. So, talking of younger and fresher, here's Gary Stretch.
I'm not young or fresh.
No, you're not. You look like you're getting the same kind of thing as me as well. I feel a bit under the weather, Gary. My voice, you look.
I look what? I look under the weather.
A little. Well, no. I just maybe I'm seeing that because of the tissue. I'm wondering, are you suffering from the kind of hay fever that people are getting?
I look under the weather.
No, not necessarily. To be fair, I was just because you came straight on with the tissue. I wonder, are you getting those kind of hay fever syndrome? There's something going around. Definitely, I think I've got some of it.
I don't know how I've got on this show today.
No, but it was because you were a superstar. To be fair, Gary. I mean, when did you land in London?
I just got out the car now.
And you to the hotel or to the apartment or whatever.
Yeah,
staying,
I just got literally running in. I didn't have the Wi-Fi password. 5 to 9. I'm battling, and then they're trying to give me food. I said, I can't eat you. Let me go. And anyway, I got out. People can't say hello. I said, I can't say hello. So you see all in an hour. I ran and found a place with the Wi-Fi and just got on. So we're here.
That's what I really, really appreciate about you is you're so committed.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter how jet set your life is, and you've got big things going on. But when you said to me quite a long time ago now, can we try this, the three of us? I really enjoyed that. Do you fancy, shall we do it like a regular podcast and try and get it going somewhere? And you've stuck with it, Gary. No matter what country you're in, you've actually said, well, if you say you're doing it, aren't you? Because a lot of things fizzle out. They sound like a good idea at the time. People get bored with them, whereas you've stuck with it. Fair play.
You know what, Ben? The thing what happened with this podcast is, well, I've known you for a long time, but not really well, and now we became friends, and I don't have friends. I mean, and I know how important it is to you, and how good you are in it. Because I think you're I say to Silk every day, we have fun, but you're the real anchor for this show. Always have been,
yeah,
and always the one who does everything behind the scenes, and. Yeah, and I would do anything to make sure I can get here if I can physically get here. And I got here, but literally off a plane, in a car, and then getting into the place, getting keys, getting passwords, and I'm looking at the time, but we made it. We're here.
Wicked, yeah. Well,
So,
I was just talking to the guys who've tuned in about. Obviously, I started with the main event tomorrow night in Selhurst Park at Crystal Palace. talk about Riakporhe versus Billam-Smith, and I was saying just as you came in, Billam-Smith said the first fight that he won means nothing. That was 5 years ago. I'm a different animal now. Whereas Riakporhe said, no, it doesn't mean nothing. I've got a psychological edge. And, you know, he's the same fighter. He's got the same trainer. I beat him 5 years ago and I'm going to do it again. I'm not sure where you're poised on this one because I'm not sure what allegiances or kind of you might have at this stage.
I'm not versed, Ben, to be honest, on the two of them. And I didn't have time today to look. I normally do my research. I normally get video and get a basic assessment. What are your thoughts on the first fight and where they're at now in their careers? Because they're saying Billam-Smith. I know Riakporhe said that he thought that Billam-Smith was on the slide.
Well, he didn't look good in his last fight because he won the title from Lawrence Okoli, who a lot of people had an issue with because they thought he was stylistically horrible and bereft of infighting skills, you know, and like an octopus jab and grab. That we've got.
I'm going to move, Ben, because the Wi-Fi is not great here.
I hear that, yeah.
So forgive me.
No worries. What was I saying? Billam-Smith beat Lawrence Okoli for the title last summer. And then in his first defence, which I believe it was either earlier this year or it was very late last year, but he looked pretty bad against a Polish guy called Mariusz Masternak. He was cut. He was behind on 2 scorecards, and in the end, the guy retired on a stool. The guy quit. I think the guy quit because of Somebody remind me. I think Masternak might have been cut. In actual fact, but Billam-Smith was struggling, profoundly struggling with the guy who was just a little bit slippery, a little bit cagey, bit of a bouncy sort of style, the Polish guy, right? And but in any case, he looked way too easy to hit, Billam-Smith, and people were saying, people in my kind of regular online kind of boxing conversational loop were saying this is just simply not world-class standard. You look at this; these are domestic level fighters wearing world title straps. And they said it's just not world-class boxing. That wasn't last night, you know. And Billam-Smith was profoundly lucky to retain his title. So, going off the back of that, Riakporhe had a 2-round win against a relative also ran last time out in an 8-rounder, just because he needed the action. You know, he needed a run. So that is, if people are optimistic about Riakporhe, one of the things it might be based on is how bad Billam-Smith looked last time out. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So, what are your thoughts? Are you? We don't want you pick, but I think you're shading towards towards Riakporhe, right?
I am shading towards Riakporhe because I think you look at the first fight, right? You know when a fight is close, but someone else definitely lands the more hurtful punches, and he was the one who looked like he might have stopped the guy a couple of times. So he didn't necessarily outwork him. You must have fights like this yourself, where one guy, perhaps it was you, was the governor, and you were the one who was hurting the guy more than he was hurting you. And a lot of the time, that will be enough, won't it? You know, particularly he had a couple of big rounds, Riakporhe. It was a very close fight. It was a split decision. It was 5 years ago when they were both 9-0, Gary. So I don't want to base everything on that in any case. But Riakporhe hurt him more than was the reverse. You know,
and Billam-Smith's an all-action pressure guy, right?
He is, but you know what? When you look at it, Riakporhe is probably more what you might call pro-styled and comes forward and sets himself. Looking at the first fight when they're both only 9-0, Billam-Smith was bouncing a bit, you know, with some of those what you might call an amateur style, the kind of in and out kind of. He looked like he had that kind of amateur schooling because Richard Riakporhe, I believe, is one of those guys who's learned to fight on the job. You know, he didn't have a big amateur background. Like Billam-Smith had more of an amateur background. And so even though he is a pressure fighter and he's a strong guy, Billam-Smith, he's more likely to get on his bike, or he certainly was last time when they fought. You know, so...
See, now that's put a spin on it because I don't know him, but my little thing I've heard or watched, I thought Billam-Smith was like this pressure guy, all action, and he would wear down the other opponent, but he was on the slide. That was the information I was getting from various bits. But now you're saying he's not. You would say he's not the stronger of the two.
I don't think so, no, because if you look at the first fight, the physical side of it was probably they're both strong, but the physical side of it, the predominance was for Riakporhe. He certainly hurt. I know strength and power are different things, but he certainly hurt him more often, and he was going forward more often than not. Riakporhe. He's going to come out and look to do damage, I think, and I think he will look for the stoppage. Riakporhe, you know.
So I think we're both going to be on that one then.
I think we are. I was wondering where you were going, and if you have more of a conviction. I understand that you don't have a strong conviction. I understand why, but
Well, it's
yeah. Do you know
based
the
on
other reason?
information, but
Do you know
unlike
the
Silk, I'm willing to risk.
Yeah. Do you know the other reason why I'm leaning towards him? And you will sympathise with this. One of my good female platonic friends, I took her to the press conference with me yesterday because she adores Richard Riakporhe. She just thinks he's the most beautiful male
Oh, I saw
specimen.
the picture you posted, right? With a crazy tracksuit.
Yeah, yeah. You go, everybody, because that's the thing. I said I got Lois a meeting with her favorite fighter of all time, and someone said that's my favorite tracksuit of all time. You know, taking the piss. And then someone else said really need to show us some more fighters. She really needs another favorite fighter of all time. And then someone else actually quipped, it's only because she hasn't seen Gary Stretch. That
Oh
was
wow!
yeah. But what I'm saying is
And you didn't
she
mention
loves him
she's
so much.
blind, right?
Huh?
You didn't mention she was blind.
No, I didn't mention that. No. Well, you know, we have people who are half blind on the show, so we obviously not have a
Oh, come
discriminatory
on.
attitude, do we?
Boom.
The cyclopean isn't here tonight, but listen. No, you know what I mean. So if I officially pick against Riakporhe, I feel like I'll get some grief from Lois.
Well, you
That's
know
a
what I'm going to do? I'm going to go with Billam-Smith.
See, that was what's worrying me, Gary. Because every time you do that, I feel like a seesaw. I feel when you pick the other guy, I feel like I'm on a seesaw with Kanishki. Remember the
I'm going to
sumo
go with
wrestler?
Billam-Smith because I saw the interview with the two of them face to face. Like the gloves are off for one of them shows, and I liked the attitude of Billam-Smith, and he looked well. He looked healthy, so I'll risk a loss. I'll go with him.
Yeah, because you're like a guy with a big bank account who thinks I'll risk one on this, and then they end up winning on the 20-1 shot. Whereas I'm like on the breadline basically. I'm thinking I can't afford the losses. So see that bugs me. When you were on the same one, I feel better now. All right, it is what it is. I'm gonna stick with Riakporhe, not because Lois is in love with him and wouldn't want me to pick against him on the show. That'd be a ridiculous reason. In all seriousness, I'm going with Riakporhe because he's the better puncher. I think he may be the fresher. I mean, any talk that Billam-Smith is on the slide, he's only had 20 fights. I don't get the way fighters like Josh Taylor, who've only had a handful of fights, are considered to be on the slide nowadays. I don't know what's going on, to be honest with you, Gary. But I think that if their argument exists, I think Riakporhe is fresher. I think he's got the motivation of never having been champion. And Billam-Smith looked pretty awful last time out. The only thing I wonder about, Gary, is champion's privilege. You know what I mean? When fight is close, and sometimes is it really the champion who gets the privilege, or is it actually the bigger commercial animal nowadays and the guy that they want to win? You know, when I say they, I mean the business side has more upside in a certain guy winning.
I think champion's privilege is not so much privilege. I think it's more of you have to beat him. Whereas if it's close, you've got to take it off him.
I hate that. I mean, I don't know.
I
Are
don't
you
like
actually
that
defending
either.
that logic? I can't stand it.
I don't, but that's what they say. You got to go and win it. Whereas, so like if it's a draw, if it's bordering on a draw, I think they slide for the champion, which I don't think is right. I think you should
Well,
mark
you
it the way it
can't
is.
really
It's
though, can
fair.
you, Gary? The only way you can do that is if you on the rounds individually. If the rounds are close, you can give them to the champion. You can't get to the end of the fight and then give it to the champion, can you? Because you handed in your scores already.
Yeah, but if it is a draw, the champion retains the belt, right?
He does, yeah.
So you literally have to beat him. So you can't
Which
afford to get a draw.
what
So
while we're on it, I was going to propose. Obviously, we'll have to wait for the Silk to sign off on this. I was going to propose we change our point system and make it a little bit more sophisticated, a little bit more like the betting shop. And what I was going to suggest, so obviously, I don't see what you think of it, that if we pick just the basic winner, then we get 1 point as long as we're right. Yeah, we get for the basic winner with no risk on the method of victory. If we pick the method of victory, either points or KO, as long as we pick it, then we get 2 points. But if it doesn't happen, then we've lost the point, even if the right guy wins. Yeah, just like the bookies. And if we correctly pick a draw, we get 3 points. Let's say. So does that make sense? So if you want to
yeah,
play safe, You want to play safe, you just say that guy will win. You fancy him on points and you want to nail your colours to the mast, and you can get 2 points, but you might risk getting -1, right? And if you pick the draw, you get at least 3 points because that's quite a pick, isn't it?
Yeah, I'd be happy with that.
Yeah, that I think that would be more closer to the spirit of betting and making predictions and actually being that would give someone a license to be smug. You know what I mean? Rather than just saying I got it right again.
You really nailed it. Yeah.
And I actually was going to also propose we can abstain if we want to, not all the time, but maybe we've got a few abstentions where we're allowed to say I don't make a pick on this one. I don't want to, because sometimes. Do you know what I mean? So there's times when you've done it because you had to and you didn't really want to.
Well, I'm a bit on this one with this fight. I'm really going out on a limb. I'm just going on physical appearance, mental attitude in an interview.
So you'd support the idea of an abstention within a certain limit every month that we're allowed to abstain. Maybe once a month we're allowed to abstain on a fight if we don't fancy it.
Yeah,
Like it becomes a play.
I think part of this whole thing is that we have to like do our homework sometimes.
Yeah.
You know,
well, okay, true.
I know Silk talks and I don't know these guys, but that he's got to do his homework.
Yeah, exactly. Because sometimes he says, "Oh, these are just local fights." What he means is he's got Americanitis. Some of these are big fights, and Britain is a big market today. Britain is kind of where it's at more than the States. You could argue, right?
It is.
So he can't say Taylor versus Catterall is a local fight with no global importance. That's not true.
Not anymore. I mean, the Brits have really dominating box office. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, we have the tank fight, which I'm sure we're going to get into next with the.
Well, we've got a few more fights on the other card first, but yeah.
Okay, but I'm saying the Tank Davis, and he's fighting. What's the guy's name?
Frank Martin.
Frank Martin. It's supposedly a big fight. Well, it's interesting. They're saying it's a real fight, so there's a lot of serious fighters giving Martin a good chance. But again, that's a apparently big fight, but it's not getting any kind of draw like the English fights have been getting. No.
And you know what, Gary? It's a massive card in Vegas. I don't know if you looked at the undercard, but they've got about 15 fights on it. And David Benavidez is out as well against Alexander Vorjik. You've got it's a massive card, honestly.
Yeah, no, yeah, and again, Benavidez. It's almost like a small whole show. This in relationship to the fights we've been seeing lately.
Yeah. I think there is something very interesting going on, and we can talk about that too, because there was not an announcement, but there was a lot of rumours about. So no, we'll talk. So sticking with Crystal Palace for a minute, you've also got an interesting fight with Isaac Chamberlain and Jack Massey. Jack Massey being that cruiserweight who fought Joseph Parker not so long ago and went the distance with him, which was quite a moral victory, I guess he scored by doing that. So I'm not asking you to pick on it. I'm not going to pick on it myself, but that's an interesting fight. You've got Dan Aziz returning for his first fight since losing to Joshua Buatsi. He's coming back against a relative also ran, but obviously it's going to be important to him. And you've also got Ben Whittaker fighting an undefeated African fighter who's 12-0 with 10 KOs. He was the one who called him out at a press conference and demanded to fight Ben Whittaker. So he's basically one of them things of being careful what you wish for scenario. He's been warned by Whittaker in the build-up. But Ben Whittaker, obviously polarizes people because some people can't stand him and can't wait for him to get chinned, whereas other people say, no, I like it, it's different, and he's doing it because he's smart and it's good marketing tool. He's that obnoxious style, that some people like it, some people hate it, but it's good box office. Where'd you stand on Whittaker?
Don't know, Ben, to be honest. Don't know.
Don't trying to make your mind up. What?
I've seen bits, but what
about the outrageous swagger, like the ridiculous, like every other move is a showboat? What about that?
Well, we've all seen now it's not about talent, it's about marketing. Whether or not he thinks that's going to give him more eyes, I don't know. But I think what's getting very evident now, which if you look at, more than anyone, because you're a little bit of a historian. But if you look at the old fights, like even 20 years ago, there were characters, real characters, in the game, different characters, people. Now it's a fucking circus. It's a circus of who can shock you the most. which is not telling you anything about the true character. It's just like a ploy on getting attention, getting eyes, getting dramatic, getting any kind of publicity. So I think the real characters of the game have been lost, and now we've got a lot of circus acts to put eyes on seats. I don't actually think it does, but it gets. I guess it gets. If they were an outrageous outfit, they get a few tweets or whatever the bullshit is. But I'm not into the whole.
Supposedly, Ben Whittaker, whenever he fights, he gets about another 100,000 followers on whether it's X or Instagram. You know that it's the traction is that radical. You know when they've seen him doing his outrageous stuff. Sid says Whittaker reminds me of De Gale. I know what he means. You know that in terms of the cocksure swagger, one's from Birmingham, the other one's from Harlesden. But yeah, I mean I can understand the De Gale comparison, and even maybe the kind of rhythm of the way they box as well. I mean, De Gale wasn't outrageous and wasn't a showboater, but he had that cocksure swagger, you know. But like I said, I don't know how much this African kid can fight, Gary. I mean, he is 12-0. He does have 10 stoppages. But you know, I think you have to analyse a record sometimes, and I don't think he's fought anybody of note. But it will be interesting to see how it pans out and whether because don't you must think this. You must look at someone like Whittaker and think, no guy in the world would do that to me. You're not just going to hang your chin out and make me look a fool and do it. You don't think anyone can do it to you as a fighter, do you?
I don't think they can do it. I think they could do it for a second, once or twice, but it wouldn't.
Yeah.
Anyone with any bit of IQ would find a solution for that pretty quick.
Exactly.
And wait for it and set it up. You know, I would miss him on purpose to try and look like an idiot so he showboats and then spark him. You know what I mean?
Exactly. That's smart.
I would set up a situation where he would react, hopefully, and then execute if possible. But yeah, I don't think at the world level he's going to get away with that for too much longer. But he's not fighting anybody.
And he's not anywhere near world level yet. He's not a top domestic level yet. You know.
Yeah, let's see him do it when he gets up with the guys who can fight. Then I'll smile. But
let's see how he takes a shot. You know, funny though, in that you know, you get amateurs who box at the highest level. He was an Olympic silver medalist, and people say we don't know if he can take a shot yet. But I'd like to ask you this: did you know you had a decent chin from the amateurs already, or did you feel that you didn't really know it or hadn't really proven it until you had a pro career and you've gone 12 rounds and you've boxed at a certain level?
I think you don't know it, but I think what you know is, like all I know is all of my career. So for years as an amateur, I never got hurt.
Yeah.
I never felt like I got hurt. So I didn't, all it gave me was a security that I don't have a bad chin. Like, you know, I wasn't getting rocked every day, but I never got really hurt. Given I was a little bit elusive and I'd ride shots but you know, I did get caught a few times in the gym. I never really got rattled. So I didn't book myself as a great chin, but I had security that I've been hitting them fine. So
yeah,
I didn't feel like I had a suspect chin. I felt like I was fine.
Yeah.
I did always believe that if it doesn't matter who you are, history's shown if you get caught right, so the odds are you're going to get dropped. You know,
I always like to believe dropped. Yeah, but I always like to believe there were certain fighters who just don't get stopped. I remember thinking Marvin Hagler just doesn't ever get stopped. That was sort of the value base I had when I was younger. Certainly, I mean he never was. I always like to think Muhammad Ali never got stopped. I know he got stopped technically versus Larry Holmes, but you know what happened. But you know what I mean. He doesn't get knocked out. Nobody knocks Ali out, especially not when he was untouchable, when he was godlike. But maybe that's not true. You know what? Do you remember a fella called Dwight Pratchett who went the distance with like Julio Cesar Chavez? He was kind of an American high level journeyman, I guess. He used to spar Barry McGuigan. He boxed a young Meldrick Taylor on the way up, but he'd gone the distance with Chavez only a few months earlier. And one of the guys from Boxing News reported on the fight. They said there's just this adage, you know, some fighters just don't get stopped, and Dwight Pratchett is one of those guys. So.
Yeah, you get some of these naturally tough, strong, very durable. They're also underrated in most of them. That they ride shots and they're a little bit more elusive than given credit for. But yeah, there are some guys who are just difficult, and a lot of it's to do with styles, awkward that you can't tag them cleanly.
Yeah,
You know, you get a lot of these classic boxers, really clean pros who are like specific, beautiful, simple style, and
yeah,
you catch them. But then you get the journeymen who are all over the place, but they're really hard to nail down. So,
yeah,
but I do believe that some people take better shots than others. And again, another big part of that, Ben, is conditioning.
yeah.
You can recover from a shot if you're in great condition. If you're not, probably not so much. So,
That's so
uh,
true, you know. I mean, and about getting caught cold as well, Gary. That is a thing, I believe. When you're not warm, and you get nailed early in a way that you'd shake off maybe the same shot or the same fusillade of shots if it was the seventh round and you'd had time to grow into it. Do you believe that?
yeah, I think
Yeah,
that, and I do believe it's the shot that you don't see that is all very, if you're getting hit with a barrage or you're getting a slow beating, you weather it, but you could be having a very immaculate fight and get tagged with a shot you don't see and land upon your arse. I think there's a lot of variables but again, the one thing that isn't a variable is I believe is that great conditioning, you recover from shots a lot better. I think if you're in great
absolutely.
nick, you
Yeah,
can recover.
yeah.
I mean,
And you're more likely to get gone.
Fury's shown a lot of this, but I honestly do feel in my heart how much more can he do it? He's getting to that age and he's getting to that place where can he continue to
Let
recover? He
Since you
almost didn't
mentioned a
recover.
Gypsy King, let me ask you about. You must have seen a little bit of media kind of curtain twitching at him being drunk the other day, last Friday night, in one of his Morecambe local haunts, and then he was very gently escorted out by the security because he'd obviously had too many and looked a bit like he didn't know
I
who he
think they were
was.
trying to help him, do him a favor.
Yeah, they weren't throwing him
Just come
out. They
on,
were
let's
just saying, "Come
get
on,
you
Tyson."
home. No, no.
Yeah,
Yeah, he
and then
was
he
not.
fell on his
He
face when he
was a
got out,
king.
and some people were saying, "Oh, this is great. Look at his head's gone again." And I just said, I think he's just having a few beers and getting pissed. The rematch is not till December. The Silk took a view on it like it was grave and this is sad, but the Silk would say that because he's never been a drinker, you know?
No, I think it's irrelevant. He's allowed to get a night out. Look, no one wants to get in that state. It happens.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's dealing with some demons. I'm sure he's not happy about a loss. It's a massive thing if you think of legacy. Um, it's a big thing for him. I think he felt he was going to retire unbeaten, and he's been threatening retirement. Uh, Obviously now he's got something to prove, which might be a great thing for him. But I think sure he went out, had too many, not great as a public figure, not great as any figure to be falling
No.
in the street. But I wouldn't think too much of it, and I don't think it's extremely odd. I think he's probably really sad in many ways. I'm sure he's beaten himself up a bit. I'm sure nobody criticizes himself more. I know he gives it up to himself, but I also know that he probably criticizes himself more than anybody.
Yeah.
And he had a real, he had a hell of a fight. He came second. I think honestly, Ben, I really believe in my heart, and I know how good Usyk is. But I believe Tyson lost the fight rather than Usyk won it, and I think he lost it on fundamentals.
Something
You
went
cannot
wrong there,
allow.
didn't it, Gary? He was
I
taking care
fully,
of business. And
he
then
should have. He's 6'9", 300 pounds. How he's letting a 200-pound guy back him up?
220 pounds.
He should have walked to the center of the ring, long stiff jab, back Usyk up, very strict in his gait, very put the pressure on. We saw Chisora pressure Usyk, and Usyk didn't like it. We saw Deontay Wilder get put on the back foot, doesn't like it. A lot of fighters can't fight in the back foot. The one thing about Usyk, he's extremely clever boxer. He's extremely sneaky and tricky. You get sneaky and tricky when you have time to think. and he gave him too much time, too much distance, allowed Usyk to be somewhat comfortable and do what he wanted. He like when you're backing a guy up, he's getting backed up. He doesn't have a choice or doesn't have choices. He's dealing with pressure that you put on him. Fury put very little pressure on Usyk, and the few times that he did back Usyk up, he got the better of it, Fury. So I just don't know where the mentality is to allow a fighter like Usyk, who's so smart, rounded, fast on his feet, very good thinker, good IQ, how you would allow a guy like that to be comfortable and give him space to create tricks, to create traps. He played into Usyk's hands, just a bad game planned from day one. And on the few times that he did push Usyk, he came out well on top. So I just think he got it all wrong. But I think going back to the bar, I think he's probably going through somewhat depressing. He does get depressed when he wins fights, and mine loses them. So I think he's allowed to be. I mean, we would be a very judgmental audience not to let a man have a few bad nights and come back. He's got plenty of time. Not a good picture to see him that way, but who gives a fuck? It is what it is. He had a bad night. Let him get over it and get back on. I saw a video of him training the day after.
Yeah, the day afterwards, just saying,
and he looked fine. So, he had a bad night. I hope he doesn't go into any kind of spiral. I think the good thing that we have, or that Fury has, he has the date to get ready. So he doesn't have the chance to go down that slippery slide. It would shock me if he didn't come back better, because I think he's got a big ego and I think it's healthy. And I think he knows what he has to do to win it. If I was him, I'd get rid of everybody. I'd keep Sugar Hill. I would keep the other great cornerman. What's his name? There was three in the corner. There was Sugar Hill. Who's the other great cornerman? Great fighter.
What? He was a great fighter.
Yeah.
Jonathan Banks or someone?
No. The Irish guy. Is he Irish?
Andy Lee.
Andy Lee.
Sorry, yeah.
I mean, good. I think he's a great mind, Andy Lee. I think he's a really knowledgeable guy. I think he's a great guy. He's earned his stripe to talk in that corner. I know Sugar Hill is for whether you love him or hate him, he's took the position of he is Tyson's coach. John Fury is much of a colourful character he is. I think he's pushed a bit too far with it's become more about him than Tyson. And
yeah, of course it is.
I don't think there's room for that in his camp. I'm sure he likes his dad around and he can keep him, but there has to be a pecking order in the corner. I think he needs to clean his mind, go away, train like a challenger, which is what he is now, and put all of his knowledge and all of his experience and all of his wisdom, meaning wisdom from alcoholism and wisdom from boxing, and put it all into context and decide, have a talk to himself, have a talk to the man upstairs and say, look, do I want this? How far am I willing to go to get it? If he does that, and if he puts his heart and soul from a humble place, goes on a spiritual journey, does it one more time for his legacy, this is it. Yeah. I believe he comes back, and I believe if he does it right, he beats Usyk quite easily. I think Usyk's amazing. No, he's a great fighter. He's a great person. He's a great many things. But I've seen in various fights, from the Chisora fight to the Dubois fight, I've seen on many occasions huge holes in his armor. And I think that Fury could hold the key. He could do it a very competent job. I think he can stop him. He's not going to stop him the way he's fighting. He's not going to stop Usyk if he allows Usyk to have space. Not going to stop him if he allows Usyk time, distance, get comfortable. He's got to have a whole different game plan. Doesn't mean he's got to be reckless, but he's got to very smartly stand his ground, use his size, use his weight, put him on the back foot. And I think he beats him quite well. If he doesn't, he loses again.
Well, Sid Boggle has asked, are you still confident the rematch will
No,
happen
I'm
on December
not.
21st? I mean, the thing is, I saw Johnny Nelson yesterday as well, and I saw on Seconds Out, he was saying, I'd be surprised if it happens.
Yeah, but
Don't be
Johnny's got
surprised if
it
it
all
falls
wrong,
through.
Ben. He's got it all
Huh?
wrong. Let me tell you something. The danger of the fight not happening is Usyk, not Fury,
What, you think he might retire or something?
because he doesn't know Fury nothing, and people could get mad at him. But I heard something through the Vine, very close source of him saying he's borderline thinking of retiring, and he's had discussion about it with his management to
Yeah.
to retire undisputed heavyweight champion. Doesn't know Fury nothing. I think, honestly, no matter, I think it would slightly put a stain on Usyk if he didn't do it again, because they did agree, but he doesn't have to. But on the business side, I think he gets at least 150 million to do it again. Now that's a lot of, no matter how much money you've got, another 150 million for one fight. That's generational wealth for his family, his
Yeah.
grandkids. I think he would regret if he still got some desire not to do it. And I think if he did it and won again, he would really cement his place in history. If he didn't, he would get his plaudits, but it would be a little bit of a smear on him. So, but there is conversations that Usyk was going to possibly retire.
Yeah.
Um,
So nothing's written in stone, but as it stands, we feel that Fury is on course to come back and it's a winnable fight for him. But you and I both agree about that.
Absolutely, and I think it's all about
Moving,
attitude and game plan
moving.
and cleaning his life up. Get people. I think Tyson Fury in a clean state of mind, focused, disciplined, get rid of everybody, have his key people. I think he can beat. He can beat him. Yeah, but he has to have a completely different game plan and go at it like you know. I'm amazed that these coaches, for me, Ben, I would just, if I had a kid in the corner, say you have to win this round, just win one round for me.
Yeah,
You have to win this round. You come back and don't lose this round. Don't fuck around. And all you got to do that is 12 times.
yeah,
But don't look at the big picture. One round, come back, recover, give me one round. Come back, one. Because they get into all this bullshit. I am giving a round off, giving this. It gets very grey, and people all of a sudden, next thing you know, the scores are even, and who's win. No, you win every round. Don't be afraid of running out of steam. You've trained hard enough. You can
yeah.
do
There's
this.
you train for 12 rounds or whatever distance
Yeah.
you're doing. You shouldn't. Have you done a lot of corners?
I've done a few for friends, but not
Right.
real. I did a bit of white collar with friends in LA. I had
Yeah.
like mates who'd never boxed who were really freaking out because they're gonna have a fight, so they got me in, and I found it extremely useful for them. I was having real conversations in them corners. But
Yeah.
no, but Ben, I believe I would be a decent coach because
Yeah.
I'm a fan of boxing, and a part of that, like yourself, is um, I do look at fights. I do break fighters down. I do
Yeah.
make plans. I do lead into traps. I do, it's like
Yeah.
uh, you're a very smart guy when it comes to boxing. You know you're boxing. But yeah, I used to have a lot of
And I've done a
fighters,
lot of corners. I've done a lot. I've done more than I can ever remember, amateur and pro. I can't remember how many I've done, but it's a lot.
and they're very
It's not.
important what information you get in that corner. But I had a lot of fighters, like Michael Watson came to my house for Eubanks after I fought Eubanks and said, I know you had the beating of him. And we sat in front of my TV in my living room in Victoria Park and we looked at Eubanks and we had a game plan and he did it. And he beat, in essence, Eubanks twice, or had the beating of him
Yeah.
on both times, second time more than the first. And then, of course, the tragedy struck when he got hit. But yeah, I think I have enough experience, and I enjoy breaking fighters down
Yeah.
and looking at how to beat them. Yeah,
Sid here has said Gary would be a great coach. Been there and done it. I'd like to just clarify. Being there and done it is not necessarily. I think he would be too for lots of reasons. Partly because he's been there and done it, but that alone is not enough. Because some fighters have been there and done it, and they've done more than Gary ever did, and they don't make good coaches. Some of them make lousy coaches. You know what I mean? So it's not necessarily about having been there and done it, is it, Gary? I think you need to have you're an intelligent guy, an articulate guy, and you have a certain personality, a persuasiveness, which I think would help you be a good coach.
I
Not
think
just
I think the biggest gift you can give to someone, Ben, is I mean, you've seen there are current fighters who are far better than their coaches if it comes down to boxing, right?
yeah,
That,
when they're working with an ex-fighter, yeah.
they never had careers, and the trainers and great trainers, they had very limited careers, and now they're teaching an elite fighter how to fight or how to get better. So I don't believe you have to be a great fighter to be a great coach, but I do think there's a few fundamentals, and I think one of the things is I think it's very important that you have an ability to recognize in someone else various attributes and push them to be the best them. And it crosses over in life. I've got people who don't believe in themselves. They can be office workers, but to be able to sit with someone and have a conversation and let them leave better for the experience, and to slowly allow someone, because I think to have a good ear, people always talk about fear and don't be afraid. I don't want to let my coach know I'm afraid. If I was training, you tell me you're afraid. It's fine. I was afraid. I was afraid. It's having this. It's as I've got older. I don't know if the film business helped me. Not so much the business, but the study of film and
yeah.
But to be able to communicate, to express, and because once you can express and show someone or tell someone you're uncomfortable, once you get it out, most of the discomfort's gone. Once you put light on it. So I
it
think
sets you free.
I think an open communication with the fighter and give them help, not give them, you just help them believe, and a belief system is half the battle. So I think
absolutely.
I think I could be a plus to some guys, and then to make sure I have an edge to me, so I would be a disciplined coach. I wouldn't let people fucking get away with it. If I say 9 o'clock and you come at 9:05, I'll see you tomorrow. I mean, that's the way I operate. So there's certain things that I think are fundamental, and yes, but one of the great things that I do love is the technical side, where you look at guys and say, "Man, we know how to beat this guy," and then work on a plan and execute.
Yeah. So let's talk about Tank. I've seen a bit of Frank Martin. Okay, he's a southpaw counterpuncher. Quintessentially, he is a southpaw counterpuncher. He's lightweight. The fighters at lightweight, to the best of my knowledge, it is anyway. I don't believe it's at 140. Tank Davis is also a southpaw counterpuncher, but he's a better southpaw counterpuncher than Frank Martin, and he looks to have a whole lot more firepower on record, proven. So I see that he's about something like an 8-1 outsider, or whether he's an 8-1 outsider or not. I know that Davis is only a 1-8 favourite. If that, I know that will make sense to you because I know you're a betting man. You understand odds. So I can't, in all good conscience, I don't see much reason to predict an upset tomorrow night. I'm higher on Tank Davis than you are anyway. For a start, and I don't suppose you're going to go against him either, are you?
I am.
You're going Frank Martin. You're just throwing these bets out now because you've got the padding of the pretty decent record.
No, I know I'm gonna hide into nothing tomorrow. Everything in me says Tank wins the fight, but I have a little devil that says
upset tomorrow.
Yes, and I think it's a. Trust me, I hope the viewers don't say you're a fucking idiot, because I know I'm saying I'm going against myself. But I have a funny feeling about preparation. And I think the Tyson Fury fight underlined it, and game plan. Now, I think Tank is on a crest of a wave. I think he's overlooking Frank Martin. I think he's overlooking a lot of people. I think he's really talented. I'm not as high on Tank as I am with other fighters. Like Tank could never lace Floyd's shoes up as if he fights to 100 for me. Not in the same league. So I don't think he's ever going to be like. I know that Silk's high on him. He thinks he's going to be an elite fighter. I don't. I think he's a great puncher. Who's he
He's
for?
smart too. He's super
He's
smart too.
smart he adapts well. He thinks on his feet. He's strong. He hits hard. He finds a way. He knows how to win. All of the great things. I'm just not mad on the style. I'm not mad on the whole. I'm not crazy about him, to be honest. Just me. It's not my cup
Yeah.
of tea. Um, and I just think that some fights, I believe in spirit, and I believe that I know Frank Martin thinks, like everybody thinks, he's going to get. He thinks that everyone thinks he's going to get beat, and I think he's probably put so much work into trying to win this. I wonder if there is a God, if it pays off. And I can imagine that, when someone's really wants something, I think when you get champion, it's the old silk pajamas line, but I think there's something plays into it. I wonder if Frank Martin boxes out of his skin and Tank boxes okay. Can he pull the upset? So I'm going to go with a crazy upset.
Well,
Points.
normally it bugs me when you're going against the grain, particularly the way things have panned out this season, shall we say. But this time I'm not worried. I actually think, fair enough, Gary, that's fine. I'm still confident with Tank. I really am. So you haven't spooked me the way you often do when you pick the underdog this time. So a couple of comments I want to take before we take Sid's question, which is very pivotal and topical right now. Adrian Knott came up with an interesting comment. He's obviously from personal experience with our previous discussion about coaching. He said, irrespective of whether you have the ability to coach and inspire, training boxers can be immensely frustrating. A trainer can put everything into a fighter, but loyalty is not always guaranteed. Which is, there's no question, he's absolutely right. And I've had my little deals with, with fighters, just relatively inconsequential pro fighters coming up, young prospects. I've had them, come and go and decide the grass is greener, all that kind of thing. So I know what
Well,
that's like.
it's a great comment. It's absolutely true, but you can't live in that space.
No.
You have to give it everything. You have to put your heart and soul into it. If they leave, what can you can't set it up in your mind. It's going to happen. You got to give them everything you have. If they leave, God bless them. And
Yeah.
and hopefully, well, not hopefully. At the end of the careers, they look back and maybe they say, I should have stayed, or, it doesn't matter. It is what it is. You can only do your best. Fighters also, you're often dealing with multiple personalities coming from, different backgrounds. And a lot of these kids come from nothing, and then they get to a certain level and they can't deal with, all of a sudden they're getting offered everything and they get pulled in every direction because they it's all new to them, and they make mistakes, and you've got to say to yourself, God bless them, forgive them. I'm sure they didn't mean to, but they don't know any better. They're not educated to deal with it.
Yeah.
So you have to but you can't go into it in fear. You got to give them everything you've got, and I believe in that's all you can do. And if they leave, I wish them well. Sad
Yeah.
if you're doing a great job and they get pulled somewhere else, then, but only they will live to regret, maybe, or maybe not. Who knows? But yeah, I think you've got to. I
So
don't think you
Sid,
can train someone in the fear that they're going to leave.
no, well, absolutely not. Otherwise, you wouldn't get past first base. Any thoughts, as said, on the Saudi plan to buy every promotional company, Matchroom, Queensbury, Top Rank, and Golden Boy, 5 billion? That is the way it's been surmised. He's surmised it quite succinctly there. I don't know if that's exactly what it constitutes yet, Gary. I don't think anybody does. But that is the line. That's what people are saying. He basically, it's a takeover bid. He wants to buy all the major promotional companies and have a league that supposedly 120 of the world's top fighters could be signed into this Super League. And what I'm tempted. Most hardcore boxing fans are saying, "Great, great, love Turkey Al Sheikh. You know, elect him president for a week here. He's giving us the fights we want. Don't care about the dry atmosphere in Riyadh or anything like that. He's putting fights together. We're getting fights that nobody could make for years. We're getting 5 versus 5 and interesting cards that are stacked. You know, fuck the sanctioning bodies. Boxing is broke anyway. Let's welcome the new Messiah." But do you have any misgivings about where it's going when you hear things like this? The idea of the league.
I think it's healthy what he's done to date, but I'm not sure if it would be healthy to do it like allow again. Who would be comfortable having one person controlling boxing? I don't.
Well, I hear you, but the UFC that's the comparison people have made.
No, but UFC, there's many different. There's one. There's Bellator.
No, there
There's
isn't. There's only one UFC. There's different
yes, but that's
MMA.
one
Yes,
league.
MMA. But
That's
UFC is the thing they compare it to with one umbrella.
no, UFC is a business plan, but there are other options. Um, to buy all these. I don't think. I think Turkey Al is great to have to give options to the promoters. You want to take a risk on your guy, big money, which is what we're all in the game for anyway. But I don't think. I mean, you underestimate. Not you, Ben. The people are underestimating the work that Frank Warren, that Eddie Hearn, that some of these promoters, the
Bob
time
Arum,
and years and
Oscar De
effort put
Lawyer.
into fighters. If you're one guy running the ship with all these 520 guys, who's your attention on? Who you building? Who you grooming? Who you
Well, he's going to work with the promoters, no doubt, and there will be
well,
people who
yeah. So they all stay
he'll
on
be the
like
czar, right?
yeah. I don't think anything's healthy. I think it's healthy that he's now a new option. He's putting great things together. Absolutely fantastic to become the controlling figure in boxing. I don't know if that's healthy.
And do you know what someone said? I think it was Sandy Ryan, who I believe fights tomorrow night as well on some show. There's a lot of action tomorrow. She said this is not going to be good for. I think it was her, by the way. If it wasn't, then I apologise. But she said some female fighter, anyway, on Twitter said this won't be good for women's boxing. If there's a Saudi takeover of this kind of level that people are talking about, it's not going to be good for the girls at all.
Possibly not.
No.
Again, I'm not a politician. I'm not. I just think he's been fantastic for the sport, and in the capacity that he's doing 4 or 5 big fights a year, putting guys together who wouldn't get together normally, fantastic.
Yeah.
But to come in with an iron fist and take over, and I don't think that's particularly. But we'll see. I mean,
Yeah.
we'll see what. But I don't think. I think the Frank Warrens, certainly Eddie Hearn because he's younger. I think Eddie's got his own ideas. I don't think he wants to be bought. I don't think he wants to be told what to do. I don't think he wants to run a company for someone else. Eddie's coming from a long history with his father who built this company from nothing. Now Eddie's took over. He's planted his seeds and he's growing it rapidly. And I don't think they want to be bought out. So, I
agree with you. I agree with you.
I think that he may. I think there's a space for maybe this undisputed belt where all the promoters work together to fight to put the fighters together one belt to really show that all the politics with the various bodies, we can get rid of that and actually put guys together and we can afford to do it. That's an interesting idea to have a belt that everyone believes is the belt. But other than that, I just think boxing should stay as it's been for as long as it has. I think the biggest problem in the past, Ben, as you know, were options, meaning back in my day, 2 channels, ITV, BBC, so you had 2 promoters, Warren or Duff, Barrett Duff, Frank Warren.
Yeah.
Now, fighters have options, so it's a lot healthier playing field. I think the game is opened up enough now that, and there's other rich countries in the world. And I think what the Saudis have done is shown how you can get attention on a country through a sport. And maybe there's some other countries you want to invite boxers to go and participate. Who knows? It just opens the playing field for everybody. I don't think it's healthy for one country to start
We,
taking over.
we shall have to see how that story develops, and I'm sure we'll all be watching it with major interest because it's going to affect our futures in a way because we live boxing, right? So it's going to be something we're going to be invested in regardless what happens. Do you know we could get another point here, Gary, quite easily. We accept the fact that the Cyclopean is not in this week's prediction league because he hasn't said anything, right? And we're not gonna not bet. We're not gonna not predict fights just because the Silk isn't here. We could sneak one past him. You know, you got Subriel Matias, yeah, the Puerto Rican IBF light welterweight champion, defending tomorrow night against Leon Perro from Australia, in his native Puerto Rico. Have you seen this guy yet? He's heralded as the danger man, the unsung danger man of the light welterweight division. He's the IBF champion, big puncher, good fighter.
Puerto Rican.
He's been a little bit on the down low, considering what he's achieved and all the rest of it.
This is the Puerto Rican.
And some people are saying, "Oh, maybe he's the best man in the division." You know, but
is this the Puerto Rican, not the Aussie, right?
No, the Puerto Rican is the very much the favourite. Yeah, Subriel Matias, his name is, and he.
Don't know him.
Well, I think he will win tomorrow, which is not a very bold prediction, but it's another point if it comes off.
Well, I'll go with you on that one. I don't know.
So all right. So Silk can't do anything about this. We're predicting 3 fights. You are going Billam-Smith, Frank Martin, and you're going to go Subriel Matias with me, yeah?
The one you say is the hidden treasure.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Good description. Good term. All right. So that will be interesting. I like I say, Billam-Smith worries me. That's going to be a close fight, and I'll be apprehensive about that one. Oh, we may be going, by the way. Our man who's looking at tickets.
Let me know, because apparently I'm not too far. I'm near Canary Wharf.
Okay. So you won't be too far away. So possibly we'll be going to that then, Gary, tomorrow night. We shall see. Chamberlain versus Messi. We've got to talk about this. The fans are asking. Chamberlain versus Messi is an interesting fight. I don't want to make an official prediction on that one because we don't have to. But I like Chamberlain, you know, Sid. He's a cool character. He's a funny guy. And it was funny. But Messi is a pretty tough kid too. And he might be the more solid psychologically of the two of them. I worry about Chamberlain sometimes just having the temperament he's got, which makes him a funny guy and makes him, you know, an interesting figure. But I think Chamberlain is probably the more talented of the two. But I spoke to Spencer Fearon today, who said to me that he thinks Messi is going to beat him. That was his opinion, at least. So, what do you think, Sid? You tell me quickly. Is Chamberlain still with Hennessy? I think so. Yes, I believe so. I saw Mick Hennessy there yesterday. Mick Hennessy was there, of course, because his daughter Francesca Hennessy is also appearing on the show. Do you know what was funny? Because you know Mick Hennessy, the big, large promoter who used to be with Tyson Fury, Gary? Tyson Fury's first promoter, really, yeah? His daughter's boxing now, Fran Hennessy. She's pretty good. But she was all glammed up yesterday, and a few people like Johnny Nelson, a lot of people say, "Wow, who's that?" You know, she's got the kind of white skirt, blazer, round shades, Gucci shades, whatever they were. Some designer label anyway. And they were saying, "Wow, who's that?" And they said, "It's Fran." He's like, "What? Oh, fucking hell!" So that was something I couldn't help noticing. That you know they were checking her out and thought, "Oh, that's actually Fran Hennessy." But I assume Chamberlain is still with Mick Hennessy as well. Yes, I hadn't seen Mick for a while, to be fair. You know, but he was there at the press conference yesterday. Hennessy looks like Danny DeVito, says Sid. Yeah, it's probably not the worst comparison of all time. What was I talking about just before that? By way of closure.
Well, we've talked about the Puerto Rican kid, right?
Well, I was going to say to you, Gary.
We've talked about the hidden treasure Puerto Rican, and
yeah, I was going to say to you, Gary. I mean, obviously, something we can talk about privately, but while I've got you here, do you fancy possibly going to that Crawford Madrimov bill in LA?
Yeah.
Should we aim for that? Should we try it?
What date is it?
August the 3rd.
I should be there by then anyway, but if not, we'll go together.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that then. So
hopefully, I can set up where you stay with me.
Yeah.
And we'll work it out. Yeah.
Sounds good, huh? All right. So I'll give you a shout tomorrow. We can have a quick chat off camera anyway. Let me close the show. Guys, thanks for tuning in. The picks are, just one more time, I'm on Riakporhe, Tank Davis, and Subriel Matias. Gary is on Billam-Smith, Frank Martin, and Sabriel Matthias. Jesus, Ben, that's a great card. Yeah, it is a great card. The LA one is a great card. You've got Jarrell Miller versus Andy Ruiz. You've got Bacoli versus Jared Anderson. You did have Tim Zoo versus Virgil Ortiz on it, but that's been pulled because of Zoo still hasn't recovered from the cut he got against Fundora, who you also picked. Because you're jammy like that. What can I say? It's God's plan. Guys, thanks for
beat him
tuning in as
again.
always. Go on, huh?
Sorry to cut you off. I said he'd beat him again.
Yeah, okay. We'll see what happens. It's obviously going to pan out some way or the other. Guys, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate you. You know the drill by now. Like, subscribe, spread the word. See you Sunday. Peace out.